Hi kids, Reverend James here with Children's Time. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry I didn't have a video for you last week with Remembrance Day going on and everything. I ran out of time, so I'm sorry. And I had a book ordered to share with you, and then the library's closed, so my apologies. But here I am, and the first thing I wanted to do was a couple weeks ago in my last video, I asked if anyone had any questions. And we got some questions from William. 3 questions. The first question William asks is, who created God? Well, the short answer is no one. God has always existed. God is the only one, the only thing that has always existed and will always exist. And we see this even in God's name, which we think is pronounced Yahweh, although we don't really know because the ancient Hebrew people didn't write down vowels, only consonants. But we think it's pronounced Yahweh, and that simply means to be, being. God is being. So everything that exists was created by God. God always was and always will be. Second question, how did the snake talk if snakes don't talk? Well, I think the easiest answer to that is when we understand humanity in Adam and Eve before they left the Garden of Eden. While they were in the garden, everything was kind of perfect. Everything was as it should be. Humanity, animals, creation, everything was in unison with each other. And so it's quite conceivable that human beings and animals were able to talk to each other. We even know today through technology that we can start to understand how animals communicate, how whales communicate. And although we don't know how to talk back to them, maybe we can someday, but we know that animals do communicate, and back in the Garden of Eden, if we envision how it was this perfect setting, this perfect place, it's easier to believe and understand that human beings and animals were able to communicate with each other before what we call the fall, and Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden, and things kind of fell apart. So the third question, why did God create the devil? This is a very difficult question, very good question. And I would give 2 separate answers. First is what we understand from myth or legend. This isn't in the Bible. We don't read about this in the Bible. But some people came to believe and understand that the devil is actually an angel named Lucifer, was an angel who was with God and in heaven, and didn't like the way God was doing things. So Lucifer rebelled and fell out of heaven, and influences creation, humanity, to also try to rebel against God. So the first answer, God created angels, including an angel named Lucifer, who had free will and decided that he didn't want to serve God. The second answer I would give is we as people, as human beings, tend to personify things. We see objects, we see events, and we tend to think of them in terms of people. It's just what we do as human beings because our whole way of thinking is relational. We relate with people. So we'll say things like, oh, that piece of pie is calling out to me to eat it. Well, it's a piece of pie. It's not calling out to you. You're just kind of imposing a personhood on that pie, like it's speaking to you. Or something I say all the time, my computer hates me, because my computer always seems to not want to do what I want it to do. But it's not because my computer literally hates me. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have a mind, a free will. It's just doing what it's programmed to do. But but I think of it in terms of being a person. So in terms of the devil, we tend to personify evil or bad things, suffering. And one of the devil's names is Satan, which means to deceive. And deception means to convince someone something is true when it's not, when it's a lie, or to convince somebody that a lie is actually the truth. That's deception. And in the Bible, the writers who wrote the Bible personified this evil, this concept, into a person that we've come to know as the devil, the tempter. So I hope that helps. I know these are complicated questions that require complicated answers, and maybe it's something we can talk about in the future. But if anybody has more questions, please just keep them coming. So today I wanted to start by talking about what is commonly called today influencers, particularly social media influencers. Now I have this quick overview of all the top influencers in our world right now in their different fields. We have entertainment influencers, beauty influencers, fitness influencers, travel influencers, all these people who have social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, and they give us a glimpse of their lives. This is what my life is about. What do they do? Where do they go? What products they use? And it appeals to us and appeals to our interests. If I'm interested in travel, I'm interested, this influencer, where are they traveling? What are they doing? What do they recommend? And then we see what they're doing on social media and we think, well, I want that. I want to go there. I want to look like that. And that's why we call them influencers, because they influence how we think and what we want. But a big caution about influencers, especially on social media, is we're only getting a teeny tiny glimpse of their lives, of who they are. A glimpse that's meant to depict themselves in a certain way. We don't see who they truly are. We're only seeing a teeny tiny glimpse of them. So if I were to only post pictures of me eating hot dogs on my Instagram account, you'd think, this guy only eats hot dogs. He's obsessed with hot dogs. But that's not the whole truth. I eat a lot of other things, right? So you need to be very critical about what you're seeing on social media, that it's not the complete picture. It's just a tiny peek of what they want you to see, generally trying to influence you to buy something that they want you to buy. But influencers aren't just on TikTok or Instagram. Influencers can also be people who are using their lives. Maybe they are using social media, but they're using their position to influence the world, but to make it a better place. So I think of somebody like Greta Thunberg, who's a young woman who rose to prominence because she was speaking out against climate change and how world leaders and governments and industries need to act now to stop climate change and stop the climate crisis from happening. And so she's influencing the world in a positive way, trying to get people to live their lives in a way that's going to help protect our planet. So there's an example of a positive influence. Or somebody like Terry Fox, who we all know, who lived before any social media, but just because of his passion to find a cure for cancer, his passion to bring awareness to cancer, through his Marathon of Hope running across Canada, he's influenced all of our lives in Canada. Every year we all participate in some way, shape, or form in the Terry Fox Run to raise money for cancer research. But Terry Fox also shows us that just something so simple of putting something you're passionate about to action in your own life, like running, can change the world and make the world a better place, as long as it's directed towards towards the good and the betterment of our world. Another influencer is Nelson Mandela, who you may or may not have heard of, but he was president in South Africa not too long ago. But before that, South Africa was a country that had an apartheid, which means that black people were not considered equal to white people, and they weren't allowed to participate in politics. They weren't allowed to go certain places. They were repressed. And Nelson Mandela fought against this apartheid and was put to prison for it and spent years and years and years in prison. And when the apartheid finally ended and he was out of prison, you'd think he'd be so angry. He'd want to get back at the people who put him in prison. He'd want to get revenge. But no, he said, I want there to be reconciliation. I want there to be peace. I want us to move forward together to make this world a better place. So Nelson Mandela is a great example of an influencer who didn't let the bad things that happened to him make him bad. He wasn't going to let that corrupt him. He was going to still work to make the world a better place. So all of this is because in our gospel reading today, we hear Jesus tell a parable called the parable of the talents. And it's a story. It's not something that really happened. It's like a nursery tale. That's what parables sort of are. They're little stories to make us think. And so the parable is this rich landowner gives his servants some money. And way back in Jesus' time, the largest unit of currency was called a talent. It was a lot of silver. And we're talking about a lot. Like the amount of money a person would make in 20 years working at their job, that's how much a talent was worth. Just an unbelievable amount of money that this rich owner gave to his servants and said, go, invest, buy things, trade, but I want you to take this money and make more money. The first two do it, but the third guy just buries his talent in the ground because he's scared he's going to lose it and his master's going to get angry with him. There's many interpretations of what this means, and there's no absolute interpretation. So maybe if you want to read it and see what you think about it, that would be great. But one of the interpretations is we have been given gifts and blessed with talents and abilities, all of us, by God. And God doesn't want us to just bury them and not to use them. God wants us to tap into our abilities, our talents, and use them not just for our own sakes, but to make the world a better place. So if you're really good at sports, you think, well, that's great. I love sports. I have fun. But how can you tap into that gift to also make the world a better place? Maybe you could teach younger people how to play your sport. Maybe you could forge friendships with people you wouldn't otherwise through your sport. Things like this help take our talents and make the world a better place. Or you know what? If you're really good at reading, if you love to read, then you can talk about the things that you read to other people. Discuss them. Say, this was really interesting because of this. All different things that you do can influence others and help make the world a better place. And so, my friends, again, if you have any more questions, please forward them on to me. And perhaps today we can finish our children's time like we normally do by praying the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.